Many months ago, we set out on a quest to complete one of the most iconic Minecraft mod packs, All the Mods 9. Throughout this adventure, we witnessed a humble vanilla Minecraft player transform into a bee-loving modded enthusiast, who was just stubbornly determined enough to craft the All the Mods star and the starry bee. However, a new challenge is on the horizon, one that sheer determination alone simply won't be enough for. That challenge is GregTech, a culmination of enough technology, grind, and multi-blocks to challenge even the most skilled of players. Will we conquer the final chapter and emerge victorious by crafting the Greg star? Come along with us and find out. This is the GregTech Gauntlet. Hey everyone, my name is KryptoCal and welcome to the next episode of All the Mods 9, GregTech Gauntlet. You're joining us in front of the museum that we built in the last episode as a commemorative build to our best friend, the Amber Bee. But for now, our quest into GregTech truly begins.
Oh boy.
And of course, where we are going to be doing all of our GregTech stuff is going to be in the Beyond Dimension.
Also hereby known as the Greg Dimension.
So we're doing a little bit of initial designing here of a central hub room. This is going to hold all of our applied Energistics controller setups. So we're going to have one big controller here that's going to be hopefully all we're going to need to send a bunch of channels for AE2 all over the place. So this build here in the middle's got to be pretty big. You know we're doing the cyan terracotta for the floor, right?
No. Oh. Well, you can use the exchanging gadget then.
And the key to all of our GregTech bases going forward is going to be modularity. Because both of us aren't super familiar with GregTech and the space that we're going to need for it, it's going to be really important that we have access to builds that are easy to expand and easy to add more space when we need it. So apart from the central build here, we plan on having a bunch of different modules that are going to be easy to attach onto each other to further expand our base with the create schematic cannon. That way, if we ever have to make any quick changes or add some quick buildings to get some more space, it's not going to take us a lot of time and we can get right back into doing what we were doing, which is going to hopefully help us stay on track in the long run. At least that's the hope. So yeah, what we're going to do is do a little work on here, do a little bit of designing, make this place look pretty. Hopefully, by the time we come back, we'll have a nice build that we can start setting up applied Energistics. So welcome to my beautiful master plan, drawn for you in MS Paint. Isn't this just beautiful? But effectively, this is going to be our plan going forward on how we're going to be laying out the GregTech base. What I've done is I've classified all 4 wings as being designated for different tiers of voltage. And all of those are going to have their own dedicated branches off of this main line here. The final path is going to be reserved for bees, a main central storage, and then probably also some auto crafting and applied Energistics stuff. So for some reason, this clip recorded in like 2 frames a second. So what I'm going to do is just do a little slideshow of what we're looking at. This is the finished build. And what we did next was looked at getting the applied Energistics controller set up. So we crafted up a few of these AE2 controller blocks and started forming the multi-block here, which we ended up making a 5x5 square, which should be plenty big for what we're going to need. And here it is, all lit up and glowing, powered on, ready to be used. I think it looks amazing. And after a little bit of cleaning up, we have a pretty much finished starter room here. I also went ahead and added a couple extra little bits to the controller because I have an idea of how I'm going to send the channels around this base, and it's going to be using a lot of P2P tunnels and these wireless connectors. These are from the extended AE mod, essentially allows for an easier time wirelessly sending channels and cables around. What I'm going to do is place P2Ps on all of these faces here, grab ourselves another controller. We want to actually have this controller here not be connected to the main controller, as this is going to form a subnet, which is something we're going to have to do to actually send these channels elsewhere. And we're going to actually use this main controller here to at least power this controller. Even though it looks like it's connected here, it's not actually connected. Then we're going to grab our cables, hook all these together here, throw our dense cables on here, which are the ones that have the higher channel throughput. And then we'll just make sure that we anchor this off of the main controller and this is now hooked up. Now what we're gonna do to actually send these channels elsewhere is use these wireless connectors. And I'm just gonna plop one of these down just like that. It's not actually hooked up to anything currently. Come into our backpack, grab this wireless setup kit, right click on this one, and then right click on the other one that we want to link it to. So in this case, it's going to be the magenta wing here. So we're going to right click it just like so. And as you can see, this actually has connected and is now online. So now we know that that wireless connector up there is actually connected to this one down here, which is awesome because now all of these P2P connections here can all be sent up and accessed through this one wireless connector. This connector itself is only going to be taking 32 channels out because it's only hooked up to one side up here. What we can do is take a dense cable off of, this is how we're actually going to be doing it. We're going to take a dense cable off, and then say we get to a room where we want to put a bunch of machines, right? What we're going to do is take a small cable, branch it off of our main one, however we want to do that, put down a P2P like this. So now this is basically a tunnel. We're tunneling from any of the ones up there to this point right here. Yep. This can hold 32 channels, even though it's only going to take up one channel on this cable here.
So basically you get 32 channels for one channel coming through the cable.
Yeah, so we can hook up to basically 32 P2Ps, all which are going to be carrying 32 channels. Now we only have 16 P2Ps linked up here currently.
Yeah.
But we can
16 times 32 is what we actually have accessible right now.
Yeah, so we could add more. Like we could add some more faces here with P2Ps and hook them into the dense cable, and that would still work fine. And the way you link these up, guys, is you just take the memory card I just told you to craft. You just come up here, select one of your P2Ps you want to use the channels from, just shift right click it, and it'll copy that channel's kind of configuration to your card.
Okay.
So it says when you see the cable says device online and it has 0 of 32 channels available, that means that it actually is getting valid channels from our network. Take that, extrapolate it as far as we want on all directions, and that's basically how we're going to be running our channels. Crash course. You're not going to forget any of that.
That's actually not that bad.
So the style of video going forward is going to be more let's play and watching me figure this out, watching us figure it out together, rather than me explaining everything perfectly, because to be fair, I don't really know what I'm doing. There are plenty of people that are probably going to be kicking and screaming and yelling at me through the screen that I'm doing it wrong, and I totally get it. Feel free to keep kicking and screaming. Just don't break your monitor.
And please let us know helpfully and like constructively. Please don't be mean.
I can take it.
Okay, well, be respectful to me. I don't like it, okay?
Fight me. But in all seriousness, if any of you are very familiar with GregTech and have any suggestions, definitely feel free to let me know in the comments, or head over to Discord and drop comments in Discord and just give me some little tips and tricks. I love hearing that kind of stuff because whatever's going to help make this the best it can be is going to be super helpful.
But I think we're going to have fun. Cal, you are very much mechanical engineer, and I'm a person who likes the chemicals a little too much. Oh, we should show them my secret underground labs sometime soon.
Cut the tape, cut the tape.
These materials here are being produced, and some of them need to be produced and then brought over to Greg, like the dust. The actual chemicals themselves should be staying in the overworld because we don't actually need the chemicals.
We just need the stuff that they're going to produce for Greg.
We just need the stuff that's being produced here. So the barium dust, the calcium, PCB,
the polyvinyl
all this stuff.
And we also went ahead and designed one little room here. So this will kind of be our main storage hub. And we're going to end up bringing some resources over from refined storage from our main base, and also a lot of resources that are going to be produced from our Greg bees or alchemistry bees that Grace has been breeding up. Well, we're going to end up having to put a storage controller down here somewhere, and we're going to end up hooking this up to our AE system. So what we're going to have to do is link all the drawers up, make sure that the drawer controller is upgraded enough to reach every drawer. But then once we've done that, we're going to have to put a storage bus on that thing and get some crafting terminals set up so we can actually see all this stuff. We're going to be picking away at this slowly over time because we don't really know exactly every single resource we're going to have to bring over, but we'll probably get to a point where we're like, oh, we need that. And then we'll go and add it to our export list and make a drawer for it over here. This will be our first P2P usage point, I guess you could say. Let's just say right here. And right now the P2P tunnel is online, but it has not been linked. From here, we're going to bring some cabling over. Let's just use some generic cable, not the colored stuff, because the colored stuff is going to be kind of reserved for the main lines. We don't want to overlap or get confused. So what we're going to do is just use some basic Fluix dense smart cable, which will provide this whole room 32 channels to use. So the drawer controller that we're going to have sitting right above here is only going to make use of one of those channels. Applied Energistics uses the storage bus, which is a very similar item to the external storage from Refined Storage. We're also going to want to send items into this using Refined Storage, and potentially also from an Ender chest. So we're going to want to be able to access this controller somewhere else, because we kind of want to keep the controller above ground like this, because it looks a little more pretty this way. And to link up our P2P tunnels, we're just going to come up here and grab one of these unlinked channels. So let's just grab this one at the bottom here on the right. And if we just right click on this P2P tunnel, we should see that we have one of 32 channels being used up on this dense cable. So we can have up to 32 different P2Ps off of this one dense cable. Now for the storage bus, we want to make sure we click on this and set this to a very high priority, because this is going to be the most important. Now we're going to want to have ways to access our Applied Energistics from probably around the base. We could have the wireless controller, similarly to how we have a wireless one for Refined Storage. Having a couple little terminals that we can access manually is going to be probably a good idea. So what we're going to want to get for that is going to be the crafting terminal, which is going to require a couple of the processors and also an ME terminal. There we go. An ME crafting terminal has been made, and we had to hook this into our normal storage somehow. We're going to want to put some facades on this thing, obviously.
Yeah, that's fine.
So we can facade this cable here like that.
That's better, but like I still think this looks a little strange.
So now we see, if you come in here and take a look at the terminal, Grace, we have all of our items that we have in the drawers accessible using Applied Energistics. All right, so this is how we're going to actually do the transmitting from Refined Storage to AE2. What we're going to do is we have a network receiver here with a mega exporter. The reason that we have a mega one is because it has the most number of slots. So we can have up to a double chest worth of items exporting from this one exporter into our drawer controller, which of course is hooked up using Applied Energistics. So that's going to be a nice easy way to pass the items off. If we have to add more items to this, we can just add more exporters. Up to another, well, 4 sides are accessible here. We can also drop this a little lower if we have to get the 6th side used, but I think this should be a good start at least. Now it's just a matter of figuring out which items we need from Refined Storage.
But I feel like that's also something we're going to need to figure out as we go. But I know that there are some things that we're going to need right off the bat. I know we're going to need gold, copper, silver, tin, zinc, osmium, lead.
Do we need those in ingot form or dust form?
We are going to probably need both. Basically, a lot of those are used for wires.
Yeah, so I guess what we'll do is we'll send over the raw resources here. The groundwork has been laid. Now it's time to get to work.
Woohoo! Let's go.
Okay, check it out. Check it out. Look what we've done. So if you ever want to get down one of the longer hallways to a different room, going in any direction off of the main hall here, we've installed a little Super Trek. All you gotta do is walk on and boom, you're in the next room. Isn't that awesome? We're gonna install these everywhere. If you gotta go back, boom, same thing. You're right back in the middle. So anyway, we've gone ahead and set up another duplicate of that room over here in the middle, which is just a nice template for a just basic room. This is where we're gonna have all of our bees that are going to be GregTech bees producing their resources. And the final room over here, we're going to dedicate solely to Applied Energistics auto-crafting and also to producing the various resources that we're going to need to make all of the AE2 stuff. That being all the processors and all the Inscriber recipes, all that's going to happen over there. All we have to do is finish off the template here and hook up one more hallway, and then we'll basically have access to the other room, and we'll start setting all of that processing up. So in this room is where we're going to have all of the GregTech bees be producing their resources, and we're going to have a bunch of heated centrifuges in the floor here that are going to be responsible for processing all this, but we want to send all of the resultant outputs over to our main storage. So what we're going to do is actually set up a new Ender chest network. I think this is gray. Currently, this doesn't appear to be accepting anything. It seems to be an unused channel. So down here, we're actually going to be making use of laser IO to do a lot of the logistic work. We're going to also use modular routers to grab all the resources out of the hives, if that's going to work. I'm not 100% sure if that will work, but I want to try and use these distributor modules to do that. We can shift right click on the middles of all of these hives. And if we right click to configure this, we want to select this to be round robin and transfer into router. So it's going to try and grab all the resources. Then we're just going to come down here. We're going to grab ourselves a modular router. We will probably do something like this just for now. And we're going to put it into a buffer barrel to the left, where we're going to probably end up storing a lot of the comb. So if we do this, and yes, it is grabbing these, but very slowly. So we're going to want to add some stack upgrades to this modular router, because that's going to be letting it grab a stack at a time. Finally, we want to add a sender module just to push it to the left-hand side. And we'll see that all of these combs are now ending up in the barrel. So it is grabbing them one at a time. Now, I haven't installed any speed upgrades because speed upgrades make it a little laggier. If we can keep it just running with the stack upgrades, and that is going to be enough, then that's going to be perfect. But regardless, we need to add the last distributor module for these bottom hives. But I think that's a pretty cool and compact way to get all these resources moved over. Unfortunately, now if we come in here, our barrel is probably getting very full. Yes. We're also going to want to just start configuring all these laser modules to extract items out of the barrel, send them up into the centrifuges. But then we also want to pull back items once it finishes and then send them into an ender chest. And that's going to be kind of our basic logistics setup for getting all of this processed. It's a little bit different than how we did it with integrated dynamics in the overworld, but I just figured it'd be kind of cool to do something a little bit different. Just to show off some other ways that you could possibly do something like this. Just thought I'd give you guys a couple more examples. But anyway, all that yapping aside, let's get this thing actually configured.
I unlocked the drawers by accident, so I thought you'd want to see that, you know.
And a short while later, we have all of the resources that we're going to need, at least at the beginning here, put into these drawers, and all of the resources coming in from our bees are being properly sent over. We have a few of these starter bees here. A modular router is grabbing all the resources, and if we come down under here, we can see that some of these resources are getting sent over to this furnace to be smelted up into the dust form, basically converting them from the raw form into the various dusts. And once it's done that, it goes right into this ender chest, which is the GregTech input that we've kind of designated here. So this is going to go right into the drawer wall. And this is how we are storing and using all of our items. And we had a pretty massive backlog of combs here to work through, so it's finally getting to the point now where it's kind of worked through all the combs. So we're going to give this a little bit of time just to make sure that this does keep up with all the rates. We'll probably adjust some speed upgrades if we need to, just to make sure things are running smoothly. But apart from that, things are looking good. And the last thing we're going to do before the end of this episode is get a bunch of applied Energistics automations set up in this separate room. For now, let's just get those processors up and running so we can have them at least accessible by our system.
Also, show them the map. The map looks pretty sick so far.
The motherboard begins. What we're going to want to get is probably some of these inscribers out of here. We could use the extended inscribers from extended AE. But for now, I think we're going to use just the normal inscribers and just make sure that every inscriber is set to only do one type of processor. That way there'll be no conflicts in what's being produced. We'll never have like an issue with backlogging one certain processor and not another one. Now we are going to have silicone accessible by our system. Probably want to have silicone being one of the things we're exporting here. There we go. So we have 4,000 accessible right now. We'll run the cable underneath here and we'll probably set up the first system here on the wall. For now, let's just put these one block off the wall here, and we'll put them side by side. So now we should have 9 inscribers total here. The export buses are what we're going to want to actually use. We're going to want to get
I fell in the hole. I was just like walking, and then all of a sudden I was no longer walking.
So we're going to want 3 of these silicone presses, and the first 3 inscribers here are going to be making only silicon. Exporters up here to export silicone directly to this inscriber, and then the resultant output will get sent back into storage. Now, because all of these resources are going to get sent directly back into our storage, I don't really know if we need to have an interface under every single one. We could probably just have an interface under the middle one, and then everything else can just pipe out using some sort of cable. Wait, I have a plan. We have the cheaty thing. Bind these 2 together. There we go. I think everything has the oh wait, that's offline. Oh right, I didn't give the P2P any network yet. Let me go grab those P2Ps really quick. Which one do we grab today? Let's grab this one. This should start to boot up, and hopefully all these are online. Yep, 9 out of 32 channels are online. We also do have to actually run a cable up to our interface down here, but that should be doable. That just can be probably done through here. Yeah, so all 10 devices here are on this one smart dense cable. All we have to do is basically specify what resources are going to be exported into each inscriber.
So silicon diamond was one of them, wasn't it?
Yeah, so we have some raw resources like redstone. We're going to need gold, gold, and the Certus quartz. So we're
Oh,
gonna have to make sure those are available to our system here. But we're also gonna want to have a storage for these processors and circuits that we're gonna be making. Well, anyway, this first drawer here is going to want to be exporting silicone directly. So let's see if this actually works first. Looks like it is. It is exporting quite slowly. So we're going to want to give it some acceleration cards, which we have made a few of. Nice. Okay, so we are making the printed silicon, which is getting stuck in this interface because it really has nowhere else to go right now. But we're going to want to get at least these first 3 making silicone. So that should be making quite a bit of silicon now. All right, cool. So what we're going to want to do is basically just give it some drawers now, which are going to act as a buffer for all of these processors. I have to now go ahead and make sure we have everything is properly exporting. So we're producing the correct items, but apart from that, we are looking good. The logic press, the calculation press, and engineering press. And then the last 3 are going to be the finished processors.
Ooh, good idea.
That's kind of cool.
That looks good.
I like that.
All of the building and all of the initial groundwork we've laid, this is a pretty good start for Greg, even if we haven't even touched anything to do with Greg.
Next episode, we'll be diving straight into some GregTech. Laying a solid foundation before you dive into something like GregTech is going to be a really good idea. It's going to prevent a lot of burnout in the future just to have a lot of this stuff automated already. A little bit of time spent beforehand prepping is going to probably save us a lot of time in the long run. But I think that's what we're going to call it for this episode. Thank you very much for watching, everybody. I really hope you did enjoy. If you did enjoy, feel free to leave a like, comment, and maybe even subscribe to the channel. Also, if you haven't already, be sure to join the Discord. The link is in the description down below.
This is going to be quite the adventure with 2 GregTech noobs and 1 relatively modded noob trying this out. So subscribe to see the rest of the series as it comes out.
But that's it for me, everybody. I hope you all have a good one, and we'll catch you in the next episode. Bye.